So it looks like we are going to get to go first with a mulligan. Alright. There's one Twilight Mire in the deck. Even so, one land hand. Can't keep it. And this is better. So I am going to keep this one. Godless Shrine on top. I think, though, we want to just Thoughtseize this turn anyways. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go for the Thoughtseize. So it looks like we're up against some sort of a Mardu aggressive deck. Dark Confidant stands out over the Lightning Helix to me, so I am going to take the Bob. And this is going to allow us to just go Goyf next turn and be in actually a pretty good spot. And there's a Collective Brutality, but we're still just going to play a Goyf. And so we would have liked to have that third land. We still want it, but if we don't find it, we can still just play another Tarmogoyf, which also is pretty good. So we'll see if our opponent actually plays the Helix here, but it looks like the answer is going to be no. Wow, it's a Bitter Blossom. Okay, so this is like a Mardu, a weird Mardu list of some sort. So the question is, what do we do now? We could actually Collective Brutality away that Lightning Helix. I think I'm just going to play the Noble Hierarch. If our opponent kills it, then that's fine. We can use the Brutality later more effectively, I believe. Alright, so there's a Dark Confidant. And it looks like a passing of the turn. Interesting. So we have access to a couple of different plays here. I think we want to attack with both Tarmogoyfs, though. So we'll see if our opponent might actually just chump one with the Dark Confidant and a Fairy Rogue. Okay. So now we can either play another Goyf. I actually wouldn't mind just Maelstrom Pulsing away the Bitter Blossom here, though. So some good options for sure. Yeah, I'm just going to Maelstrom Pulse away the Bitter Blossom. Our opponent's going to gain 3 this turn. And just don't really feel like dealing with it. And we're still holding this Collective Brutality. And now that adds an enchantment, so our Goyfs are that much better. These 6/7 Goyfs are not going to be easy to deal with, although Lingering Souls is going to make it easier, more manageable for our opponent. So yep, I'm just going to play another Goyf here and pass. Our opponent does have Vault of the Archangel, which the Death Touch and Lifelink, they can give their creatures with that card. We have to be thinking about it, so it may mean that we actually just don't attack this turn and make a different play. So, not going to attack into the vaults, just going to play Scavenging Ooze here. So it's going to be a Mardu Charm. Wow. So that's going to create 2 warriors. So it looks like this is a token deck. Mardu tokens. And we have to continuously respect that Vault of the Archangel, which is pretty annoying card to have to respect. So we found a Tasigur. It's not bad here. It's also not that great. We would love to be able to attack in, but unfortunately on this board, there just aren't really good attacks. So I'm just going to play out the Tasker here and leave a Maelstrom Pulse in the graveyard, because that's the card we would like to have back the most. And just going to go ahead, eat a Dark Confidant as well. So our opponent's down to 10 here, and is a little bit flooded, and it looks like it's just gonna, our opponent's gonna transition into being a little bit more conservative. So I think we just play the Noble Hierarch out, and we don't really have good attacks. We could cast this Collective Brutality, but I'm just gonna pass the turn again. I know, not very exciting, some of these turns, but we have to respect the Vault of the Archangel. So it's kind of this standstill at the moment. Looks like our opponent's going to try to nibble away a little bit with a Spirit. We can eat away some of what's in our opponent's graveyard. It's probably not going to matter, to be honest. There's a Siege Rhino. That's actually a pretty good draw. I don't know that we play it here, though, just because we're kind of banking on this Tasker activation. I think it's close, but I'm just going to pass the turn here and try to get something back with Tasker. So the Helix is going to go upstairs. That's interesting. Okay. Well, we've got Siege Rhino in hand, which we can use to gain some life. And here's the Tasker activation. So we actually would like to mill 2 lands here, because that would mean we would just get the Maelstrom Pulse back, and that's what happened. So exactly the outcome we wanted there. So I'm going to go for the Pulse. We'll see if our opponent has a response. We're going to try to get rid of these spirits. And it may be that we should have actually collected Brutality first, but I think we want to collect a Brutality now, in any case. And the question is, do we actually escalate it here? Well, our opponent's got a Shambling Vent. They can activate. So they can go activate Shambling Vents, activate Bolt of the Archangel, trade with 2 of our creatures. With lifelink. So our opponent would gain 3 in that scenario. I think we're okay with that. The potential of that happening. Alright, so our opponent's going to gain 3. I think we just play it safe. We don't really want to discard any of these cards, so I'm just going to get rid of one of the warriors. And then attack with everything. And we'll see if our opponent makes the play we are expecting, which is activate Shambling Vents, block with Warrior and Shambling Vent, and then activate Vault of the Archangel. So that would create 2 lifelink Death Touch creatures. So it looks like that is what the play is going to be. So that's going to mean trading with both Tarmogoyfs. So our opponent takes 5 and drops to 7. And here's a Nahiri coming down. That's probably gonna take care of the Scavenging Ooze. And Dark Confidant was the last card our opponent had in hand. So we actually have lethal here. We can play Collective Brutality and escalate it. So we're going to go -2/-2 and go for the life drain here. And now the Tasker comes through for lethal attack. So we were able to navigate through that a lot of these annoying threats. So that's a good sign. So looking at the sideboard, we want to plan for the game to go long in this matchup. So we don't want a ton of 1-for-1 removal, or even a ton of discard. Like Thoughtseize isn't great in this matchup. So I think we want cards like Thrun. The Thinks seem pretty good as well. Painful Truths seems pretty good in this matchup. Collective Brutality is interesting. It can kill like a Dark Confidant. think we can actually side out a Fatal Push as well. We saw Dark Confidant, but we didn't see that many good Fatal Push targets. So it may be that we actually just board out all of the Fatal Pushes here. Keep a couple of Thoughtseize in. We could actually board in Fulminator as well. We saw that Vault of the Archangel, which is annoying. So yeah, maybe we actually board in Fulminator Mage. We only saw the Dark Confidant as far as actual creatures, which is why I'm taking out the Fatal Pushes. And we already have Liliana's and Brutalities and Abrupt Decays, which we can use to get rid of opposing creatures if we want to. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. And we can definitely keep this hand. Noble is the card you want to be starting on almost every game. So we have 2. You don't really need 2. You just want 1, but they're so good you just play 4 regardless. I like 4. Although now we're Noble Hierarch flooded. So our opponent may actually want to get rid of the Noble, but we'll have a good follow-up if that's the case. I could also see, we've seen cards like Bitter Blossom and Dark Confidant, so we know our opponent has some very high impact plays that they can make here. And okay, it's actually going to be a Brutality with Escalate, so that's actually really good for our opponent. And discarding an Emrakul. The Emrakul presumably is there as a Nahiri target. So this Brutality is going to get something quite good out of our hand. Probably either the Painful Truce or the Maelstrom Pulse. The Painful Truce, it's basically a draw 3 effect. The Maelstrom Pulse, though, it's actually going to be an Inquisition, so that definitely shows that our opponent does not want us disrupting their hand at all. So we've got a bit of a choice here. I think we want to just deploy both Noble Hierarchs, though. And that is going to mean taking essentially 2 additional damage in order to do so. But we know that because our opponent took the Inquisition, they have a card that they really want to protect. There's 1 Lightning Bolt and a Lightning Helix, so that's pretty bad news. It puts us in a weird spot. I think I would rather just pass the turn here than play Painful Truce for 2. Although we could have just played it for 2, having the Tireless Tracker, but we'll see what our opponent's follow-up here is. We have this Maelstrom Pulse. So the Pulse can deal with something like a Nahiri. And as expected, our opponent's actually just going to pass here. Now we found a Collective Brutality. That's an interesting draw. So we could just play it, or we could sit on it. I'm actually fine just playing this draw go game, I think. I'm not in love with this situation, but I think I'm okay with it. Not pressing our advantage too quickly. Alright, well here's a Mardu Charm. That's actually gonna nab probably either the Painful Truce or a Maelstrom Pulse. So it's gonna get rid of the Pulse. So this could set up something like a Nahiri, which would be pretty bad for us. Looks like it's gonna be a Rest in Peace. So that's going to mean that our Goyfs are significantly worse. Although we drew Liliana, that's actually a nice draw. So I like playing Lily right now. And this is going to get rid of our opponent's last card. We can discard this Collective Brutality. And it was a Path to Exile that our opponent was holding, which we didn't know, of course, what that last card was. So now our opponent can pressure the Liliana with Shambling Vents. And we actually drew Verdant Catacombs, which is a nice pickup. So what I'm going to do now is play Tireless Tracker. And we're going to get 2 clues. And get that white source out of our deck. So that now we can Painful Truce for 3. And I'm actually not going to tick up the Lily just because we don't want to lose our Painful Truce. That was actually a good... Well, actually, no. Sorry, our opponent drew a Fatal Push and tried to Fatal Push the Tireless Tracker, but that's not going to work out. So the Shambling Vents is going to get activated. Notably, that Fatal Push would have likely been discarded by the Lily anyway, so our opponent casting it, it's not really hurting them, but it did look a little bit awkward. I'm just going to trade the Tracker for the Shambling Vent to keep the Liliana in play. We've already gotten 2 clues off the Tracker, plus we have more cards coming from this Painful Truce. And we're in a spot where we actually don't need to tick Lily up. We can. But we also drew another Lily, so... Yeah, we don't need to tick it up. I'm actually just going to play... Well, we're in a weird spot because none of the cards in our hand are actually doing very much at the moment. But I am going to play Blooming Marsh here. And we could actually try to ultimate our Lily. I am going to tick it up. Get rid of the Overgrown Tomb. And just pass. There's a Vault. So this Rest in Peace is pretty annoying. We drew Lingering Souls for our turn. Let's crack a clue here. So we can't get rid of the Rest in Peace, unfortunately. We could either crack another clue or just play out the Lingering Souls. Neither of those options are that appealing. I'm actually going to crack the clue. And the reason I did that was looking for Abrupt Decay, essentially. So let's keep going up here with Liliana. Got a number of cards that don't really do much at this point in our hand. Bitter Blossom comes down for our opponent. So we actually have Liliana the Last Hope in hand. Now we have both copies of Liliana the Last Hope in hand. So I think we probably just want to push and try to ultimate Liliana the Veil. So I'm just going to play out the Lingering Souls. And that's going to be it. So it's a weird situation, but we can plus Lily again on our next turn and hope to be able to ultimate her. Although our opponent found a Lingering Souls of their own, so that's pretty annoying. So the question becomes, what do we do now? We're still looking for an Abrupt Decay to get rid of this Rest in Peace. The Bitter Blossom ticking up is definitely an issue. We could go down with Liliana. That doesn't seem that great. So we're in a rough spot. I'm gonna try going down with Lily. We could actually just jam the other Lily into play. I think I'm gonna pass here though. And the Vault's gonna allow our opponent to gain some life. So yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a Vault of the Archangel activation. Alright, there's a Siege Rhino. That we can work with. So I'm just going to Edict away this last Fairy Rogue. And play out the Siege Rhino. So we're going to look for this Rhino to be able to pressure our opponent. We can potentially play Liliana the Last Hope as a way to just eat these Fairy Rogues. So I'm going to discard this Inquisition of Kozilek. It's not really doing much. Our opponent discarded a Rest in Peace. Okay. Well, now I think we do go for Liliana the Last Hope. And Liliana the Veil, it almost went ultimate. Ultimately, it didn't really do much for us. But we're now able to get some pressure going with this Siege Rhino. The Goyf is still neutered by this Rest in Peace, but on board we have the clear advantage because the Lily trumps our opponent's Fairy Rogue. And this Inquisition, probably not going to take the Goyf. Alright, it's going to take the Lingering Souls. That makes sense. But now we've got... Okay, we're drawing a lot of Lilianas, that's for sure. But this Rhino is what's going to really put it to our opponent. And there's a Thoughtseize. So our opponent's drawing plenty of discard, but unfortunately what they need is an answer to what's going on the board, which is the Liliana in play. Fulminator Mage is actually a pretty good draw here. We can play it. We don't have to sacrifice it right away. We can sacrifice it if we feel the need to, and our opponent actually needs to peel something this turn, or else they are dead on board. And this Rhino's just going the distance.